Do you guys want to learn how to make amazing thumbnails like the ones you're seeing right now? Well, just keep watching because I'm going to show you how. In this Photoshop tutorial, I will be going over an advanced YouTube thumbnail guide to help attract more viewers towards your videos, and once again, like my previous thumbnail tutorial, will in turn help your channel grow. You guys showed a ton of love and support for my previous Photoshop tutorials, and you guys also asked for another thumbnail tutorial specifically, so I am delivering. Here you guys are, an advanced YouTube thumbnail tutorial with Photoshop. Okay guys, we are here in Photoshop and you are going to be making something like this today. It's a bit similar to the text that I was using in my previous thumbnail tutorial, although this is a bit harder, hence having the advanced thumbnail tutorial name instead of just a regular thumbnail one. I also added an arrow in the top right hand corner that we'll be making together, and it's not that hard. It's really simple, and we'll get into it in a little bit later. So the first thing you guys want to do is go to File, New, and then I have a template set up for a thumbnail, which is 1280 by 720 right here, and you can just copy these settings for yourself. It's not that hard. I know the older versions of Photoshop have a different layout than this one, which is the newest one, 2017 version for Photoshop, but again, these settings should be fairly easy to copy, and just click Create, and you will be given a blank white rectangle. And man, we're going to be doing a lot to this to make it look great. Okay, so first create a new layer by selecting this little button down here at the bottom right hand corner. I'm going to delete the background layer because it's not really useful for me right now. And now we have a transparent background. The first thing that I like to do when I make thumbnails is go to the gradient tool over here on the left side. And I have a preset gradient right here. You can copy these settings if you'd like, but I'm just going to click OK and drag up and create just a nice black to gray gradient that I can use to work on, so you can see what I'm going to be doing, which is a lot easier than saying working with a white or transparent background. So I'm going to create another layer here, and we're going to start with the text in this one instead of having a background. Now the font that I'm going to use is Jersey Sharp, and if you don't have that font, I will leave a link to where you can download it in the description below off dafont.net or .com. Not sure, it's one of those two, but again, I will leave the link to the font, guys. Don't worry, just check the description. So here we have our font and we're ready to type. All you have to do now is put in whatever you want the text to be, right? So for this purpose, I'm going to type thumbnail, click the check mark, and I'm going to resize it by pressing Control and T, holding Shift and Alt. I'm going to drag from the corner and resize it so it stays symmetrical, and I'm going to drag it. And you notice these little pink lines. Well, they're helping me guide it so that it's centered in my image, right? If you don't have these pink guided lines, that's okay. All you have to do is go to the rectangular marquee tool, select the entire document, go to the move tool while the thumbnail layer is selected right here, which is what it's called, and then you can click these two middle centering tools at the top of your screen, and it will center the thumbnail text in the middle of the document. So once we have that, I'm going to move it up a little bit. I'm going to press Control and J, and that's going to duplicate the text layer. I'm going to drag it down holding Shift, go to the Type tool, and I'm going to change this to tutorial, if I can spell. I don't think I can spell, oh my gosh. Tutorial, thumbnail tutorial, and this is again going to vary depending on what you want, but I'm going to add that right there. Control T to transform, holding Shift and Alt again. I'm going to make it a little smaller, like so. And I'm going to add a little design. You guys don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it just for the purposes. I'm right-clicking right here and going to the rectangle tool, dragging a little bar. Just click this little arrow if it shows up. Right-click, Rasterize Layer, go to the Move tool, pressing Control and plus. I'm going to zoom in using these bars right here. I'm going to drag so I have a better view of it. Right now I'm just going to change the color, add a color overlay and change it to white. Click OK. Click Rasterize Layer once again and zoom out. And Control J to duplicate this, to add it to the other side as well. And right now I'm not looking to add too much to it. I just want to get the basic foreground of it ready to go. I'm just centering it right now. with the edge of the thumbnail text. And as you can see, it adds a little bit of dimension or design to the text. Now I'm going to be adding the colors to the text, and this is really easy. Again, all you have to do is double click and go to gradient overlay, and I'm actually going to make the bottom text a shiny silver. You can copy these presets right here if you'd like, changing the opacity to about 50%, 48 will do. Click OK, go back to our thumbnail, go to gradient overlay again, and I'm gonna make this a nice orange or yellow orange, whatever you want to call it. It's the color that stands out, guys. If you want to have a color that stands out, use this orange to yellow gradient. If you don't have it yourself, I have a layer styles pack on Selfie, which I will also leave a link to in the description below, or you can just copy the settings, your choice. So now we have the color, and I'm actually going to copy the layer style off of the tutorial layer by right clicking and going to copy layer style, and then I'm going to hold shift and select both of the rectangles by clicking, right click and go paste layer style, and what that will do is we'll create the same layer style on our tutorial as well as these two rectangles that we made. So now that we have the basic text finished, what I'm going to do is something that's a bit more advanced, so make sure you follow carefully. And I personally like to do it because I think it makes the text look a bit better. But what I'm going to do is press Ctrl J on both the tutorial and the thumbnail layers to duplicate them. And I'm going to add drop shadow on the topmost layer. If you'd like, you can copy these settings that I'm going to add. And now we have the top layer with a drop shadow effect. Now what I'm about to do is pretty cool. All you have to do is zoom in a bit, press the up arrow key, and as you can see, it makes this look a little bit more like 3D text, which is really cool. And Control minus to zoom out and do the exact same thing with the tutorial. Move it up a bit with the arrow keys, just like so, and it will vary depending on the type of font that you're using on how it looks. And I'm actually going to add a bit of outer glow to make this look a little bit better. And again, guys, while you're designing, you're going to have situations that you want to be changing things as you go. You may have an opportunity to make something look really cool, but it's gonna make you stray off the path of a tutorial or something that you're trying to do. Just go for it. You never know what you can create. There's so many possibilities that you can have while you're designing in Photoshop. Okay guys, so now this is the really tricky part, so make sure you're paying attention to everything that I'm saying here. Right click on the bottom layer of tutorial as well as thumbnail and go to rasterize type. Do not click rasterize layer, click rasterize type. And what that will do is it will still make the layer editable with the settings that we've put on it, but it will make it so you can actually edit it using multiple things because it's not a text layer anymore according to Photoshop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the polygonal lasso tool, and if you don't have that selected, right click and select polygonal lasso tool. And I'm going to zoom in on these little corners and holding shift, making sure that it looks symmetrical. I'm going to create these little I'm gonna fill these gaps, I should say, rather. And when I have the little gaps selected, I'm gonna press Control Backspace, and that will create the filler to make the text look a bit more 3D. And again, make sure you're doing this on the bottom layer, guys, not the top layer that has the drop shadow. Okay guys, so we have finished doing that to every letter in our text, and you probably won't have as many letters as I do, so I'm probably going to just speed all of that up and put some music on for you guys in the background because it is a bit tedious, but it does make it look a lot better in the end. And now we have the text set and done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift and select all of these layers, including the rectangle layers. Go to Rasterize Layer Styles. Oh, I forgot this thumbnail one, Rasterize Layer Style. Hold Shift again and right click and go to Merge Layers. And this will create one singular layer for everything that we just made. And now this is the second trickiest part of this whole thing, right? Holding Control, click on the little box next to the rectangle layer, and it will select the entire layer. Create another layer using this bottom right button down here that says Create New Layer. Go to Select at the top of your screen, go to Modify, Expand, and I like to put around 20 pixels. And what this will do is it will create a space around what we just selected by 20 pixels on all sides so it's even. Make sure the layer above the text is selected. Again, holding Control, click Backspace. And don't worry, it's just because it's above the layer. We're gonna move it underneath the layer. Go to Color Overlay. Go to Black. Click Rasterize Layer Style. And there you have a little border. Okay, so now we have the border, but I like to make a few touches, and just go to your Marquee tool at the top left-hand corner and select these little gaps and just select them with the Marquee tool. Really easy, guys. Just like so. And again, Control Backspace. Actually, make sure that the foreground color is not that. Control Backspace for a black, and you should have this on your screen. Just again, creating these little gaps. When we did it the first time, we're just gonna fix those up this time, like so that there's no spaces left behind. And now we have this. Now the next thing I like to do, just to make it look a little bit better, is go back again to the polygonal lasso tool, and on the edges, just try and clean it up a bit. If you see a little curve, you don't really want curves, try and delete it as best as you can. I'm gonna go around the edge of it and just do that. So again, I'll put some music on the background because it is a bit tedious. Okay, so now that we have everything touched up, I'm going to add a white stroke to this little black outline that we've made. Just double click, go to stroke, and you can copy these settings and it will look something like this. And now we basically have the text finished. One last thing I'm going to do is add a little bit more design aspects by adding some custom shapes. Again, you guys don't have to do this. I'm just gonna do it to add a little bit more flair to the thumbnail itself. I'm also going to be adding the YouTube logo into it. When we're back here in Photoshop, after we copied the YouTube logo again, make sure to press Ctrl V to paste it into your file. Go to the magic wand tool, select the black in the background as well as the black inside the text. Holding Shift to select multiple things to delete, press delete, and it should get rid of all the black or the background in your logo. Control T to transform, holding Shift and Alt. At the corners, drag inwards. Just the YouTube logo really small. I don't know where to put it, guys. Where should I put it? Right here, maybe? Go into the Marquee tool to select the entire image, or if you don't want to use the Marquee tool, you can just press Control A and it will select the whole page. But for this purpose, I'll just do that. Go to the Move tool, selecting the second inner button. YouTube will be centered at the very top. So now we have basically all of the text finished. The only thing we have left to do is the background and the arrow that I showed you. So in order to get a background, again, just go to Google Chrome, type in any game or anything that you want. Again, for this purpose only, I'm going to choose an Overwatch background. So we're back here in Photoshop. Again, press Ctrl and V to get your background in. Drag it to the very bottom above the black and gray gradient we created. Control T to resize. Zooming out, pressing Control and the minus key, Shift and Alt holding together and dragging from the corners to make it even, and then you basically can just drag. And now we have the background of our thumbnail. Now the first thing I'm going to do, as I always like to do, is press Control and U, turn down the saturation by about 50%, press Control and M. This opens the curves panel, drag the bottom bit down, top bit up, press OK. Create a layer on top of the background, go to your brush tool, change the color to a baby blue, make sure a proper brush is selected, such as this one with the hardness all the way at 0 and the size at about 73 all the way to 500 or 800, 600, 500 works as well. Select the whole image, just click and drag, make it entirely blue, double click, go to the Layer Styles tab in the blend mode, change from normal to overlay, tone down the opacity to about 50% or less. I'm gonna go for about 30% here. Click OK. And now we're going to add some light and shadow. So all we have to do for that is create another layer above the blue, change the color from the blue to a white, go to the very top, again making sure your hardness is at 0%, click at the very top and it will create a light for us. To add shadows, simply create another layer, preferably drag this below the light layer, change the color from white to black, and go around the edges, again making sure your brush hardness is at 0%, adding a shadow effect. Once you have all three of those steps done, what I like to do is rasterize the background layer all together, or merge it I should say. Again, holding Shift and clicking each layer, right clicking and going to merge layers like so, and there we have our background. The next thing I'm going to do is create a border, and I'm not going to go super in depth with this because I already did that with my previous thumbnail tutorial, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Again, this is the advanced version, so a lot of what I'm doing is something that I have already done. So now we have the border for our thumbnail. Now the next thing I'm going to do is add the arrow that I was speaking of before, or I should say showing you right here. All you have to do again is create another layer on top of everything, go to this little custom shape tool at the bottom. If you have like the rectangle tool selected or the ellipse tool selected, just right click and choose custom shape tool. Go to the top here and choose an arrow out of any of these, and if you don't have all of these shown, just click the settings or the little gear icon and show all. Just click this all button right here and it should show everything. So once you have that done, just select an arrow, any arrow at all. I'll just choose for the purpose of this video this curvy arrow right here that does a full 180. And just drag, holding Shift again to make sure that it's all even. Right click on shape 1, Rasterize Layer. And it's white right now. You can change the color to whatever you want. I'll just change it to the yellow-orange gradient that we had before, why not? Add a few extra effects like an inner glow, some drop shadow, some outer glow, Control T to resize and position it wherever you want. I'm going to drag it underneath the text because I think it'll look better like that. Using the Marquee tool, going to get rid of this top bit. And like that, we have an arrow coming into our image. If we wanted to, for whatever reason, say have it pointing to something else, all we have to do is just click and drag, make it bigger, just resize it and put it wherever we want. But that's how you add arrows into your thumbnail. The last thing I'm going to be doing is adding some effects in the background. So in order to do this, just create a second layer, or a separate layer I should say, go to your brush tool and just select a debris brush, and I will probably leave a link to some of the brushes that I use in the description. If I don't, make sure you remind me in the comment section, but just choose any type of debris brush. For example, let's see, so many options. This one right here, I don't know. And making sure that it only clips certain parts of the image. Just click and it should create some debris on your thumbnail. And if it's too much, all you have to do is erase certain parts. Really, really easy. And that's the debris for the thumbnail. One last thing I will add, since this is the advanced thumbnail version, is a little watermark you can add to your thumbnails. Create a separate layer above everything. Go to your rectangle tool, drag anywhere on the top part or even in the bottom part and create a box, rasterize layer. Go to File, Open. Okay, here we go. So desktop, for me, it's going to be in Delvige 2.0. Add your logo. Pressing Control T, resizing it, getting rid of this little Delvige text because I think the regular logo would look a lot better. Resizing it, again pressing Control T, holding Shift and Alt, dragging from the corners, and putting it on this white box. And there you have a little watermark. It's not that hard to create if you know what you're doing, and it's kind of tedious just to try and explain each individual process. Basically just create a box, add a gradient to it, and put your logo in the center. If you don't have a logo, I'm planning on making a video on teaching you how to make a logo in both Photoshop and Illustrator, so stay tuned for that. The last part is to make sure you save the thumbnail correctly, because the worst thing you can do is save it as the wrong format and have YouTube not accept it, so you have to go back into Photoshop and save it again, but I will save you the trouble right here. Go to File, Export, Save for Web. Make sure that this is not selected as GIF and make sure it's selected as JPEG. I like to put it on maximum. Make sure the metadata is none and click save, and I'll just save it as tutorial thumbnail. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This little thumbnail tutorial, the advanced one. I wanted to keep it short, but I'm sorry, it kind of got a little long, even with the cuts and the slow motion. Complete opposite. The sped up version of a lot of the things that I was trying to do. If you want to see a more simple version to make a thumbnail, I will leave a link in the description and put a card or annotation on the screen to that video. Hope you guys found this useful. If you did, make sure to leave a like rating. I would greatly appreciate that. And until next time, guys, my name's Delvige, and I'm out. Peace.